Hey, what's up, everybody? Harry here. Jen and I are back in 2024 with some new movies to analyze and discuss with our friends. We're very excited to dig into it this week. We are covering Gerald's Game. It's a little bit older than movies that we tend to go for. We try to keep things pretty current, but we really wanted to cover some Flanagan. And this is just what we settled on. So Gerald's Game 2017. It's a good one though. It's a fun little conversation we had here with Geoff Pictor. And before we get into it, just want to say, as we begin 2024, super helpful if you all go onto your pod streamer of choice. Go ahead and give us a like, a rating, a review. Helps with the visibility of the show and keeps us motivated to do the thing. So here we are, Gerald's Game. Thank y'all. Can't wait for what 2024 has in store.
I wrote notes. I watched this movie twice and I wrote notes. My Kindle is almost dead and my edible is almost kicking in. Can we please, for the love of God, talk about the movie that we watched?
My name is Harry Nichols, and I am a singer-songwriter. I am an English teacher, and I am having just profound intestinal distress from the holiday season, like the likes of which I don't know if I've ever had before. It's like surely signaling to me that like I'm getting older, and I can't keep doing this to myself. Jen?
Yeah, I don't know how to like follow that. My name is Jen Lightfoot. I'm a tattoo artist, and I am drinking this bourbon cream stuff that my mom brought for the holidays, and it basically tastes like Bailey's, but it's not called that.
Speaking
So,
of intestinal distress, I
yeah.
mean,
Well, I have TMI. I'm always constipated, so I need to drink.
I thought that was the branding on the bottle. Like Bailey's Intestinal Distress Edition.
intestinal distress.
Yes.
Holiday
Oh,
Edition.
Oh, you ever drink Bailey's from a shoe?
Oh my
Anyway,
God.
tonight Jen and I are ruining the night of one Geoff Pictor. Geoff
Oh, or making the night.
making the night. Yeah.
Yeah. My name is Geoff Pictor. I'm a voice actor. I'm a teacher. If you ask Harry Nichols, I'm an amateur horror writer myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a bartender, which, Jen, to your point, I am drinking. Let me see if I can find this. I'm going to show the camera just so everybody who's listening to the podcast can appreciate it. This is
Mm-hmm.
called Fear the Sunset. It's a weapons grade stout, clocking in at about 16%. And we're going to see if we can get through this whole thing.
16.
Yeah, it's a beast.
I didn't know they
Hold on,
made
this
it like
is-
that.
Wait, actually, this is for the listeners at home. Ready?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's nice. They might as well just call that good night.
seriously.
It is, it's very smooth, which is
Yeah.
the funny part. Anyways,
Wild.
and also, I am a practicing member of the Brooklyn BDSM community. So I got some things to say about today's film.
Oh,
Okay, so
yeah.
we brought the right person on.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And hang on real quick. I'm gonna eat this little friend. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna start the show in New York City and we're gonna finish it on the moon. So bottoms up. Here we go.
Buckle up, everybody.
Buckle up, everybody.
Geoff, in all the time I've known you, in the years, so short sidebar, Geoff and I were in an a cappella group in college called Ithacappella, and we became very good friends. And all the time I've known you, in all of
I was a virgin.
in all of the sex we've had, that's what I was gonna say. I've never known that you were a card carrying member.
I was not when I was 19. I can tell you that.
I see. Okay, got you. So the New York City, the big city's it's really changed you.
Yeah, actually, I would say
Mm-hmm. Cool, man.
for the better.
Seems good.
Harry, did you know that? Did you know this at all, Harry?
I clearly did not.
Oh my God.
No, this is absolutely perfect because today we are talking about Gerald's game, which is
Yes.
it's a little bit of a change for us. We usually try to keep things like super current, but we really wanted to do some Flanagan, and we had some back and forth about which Flanagan to do, and this is where we settled. So, yeah,
This is your
obviously
placeholder episode. So you're gonna go back, you're gonna watch The Fall of the House of Usher, which is
that's
what
right.
we should be doing. And then you can go back and just delete everything that we
Mhm.
talk about tonight, stick that episode in,
That's right.
and we'll be
We're gonna
back. We'll
we're gonna
be good.
re-record an episode.
We're gonna totally rewrite history after you finish
We're
the
gonna
greatest
retcon.
work of horror of the year 2023.
So enjoy this, listener. This is an episode that is soon to be retconned.
Nothing we do tonight matters.
Nothing we do tonight matters.
No, but I feel like the end of this episode's going to be real great.
It
after.
might be
Yeah.
might be intolerable. I don't want to put any
All right.
right.
We usually make our guests summarize the film. So,
Yeah.
Geoff, can you summarize Gerald's game for us?
So here we go. From the top of my head, Gerald's Game, a story of a couple trying to refresh their marriage, goes to their remote summer home in an attempt to play at some bondage gamery, when in the pinnacle moment, the husband dies on top of his wife, leaving her to the horrors of the darkness of the lonely room and her own psyche.
Yes.
Great
Were you
description. Yep.
Did you read that? Were you reading that right now? Just like off
No.
the. No. Then impressive. Impressive.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. So we're trying something format-wise a little bit different here, where before we've kind of just like torn at, just like had a big dog pile on the movie. Like I'm wondering if we can all kind of just go around and just give like a quick analytical take. Like what do you feel like are the big themes of the movie? And Geoff was just on the spot, and I feel like I've been facilitating this. So now I'm going to put Jen on the spot.
Oh man, my notes were not really about big things. It was mostly about things that annoyed me.
Ooh,
So,
okay.
I'm gonna try to make those things that annoyed me into big picture.
Okay.
So one thing that annoyed me, and I don't know how you'll feel about this, Geoff. I felt like the film might have been a little kink shamey overall, or not true to BDSM in some ways. I also felt like this is more the end of the movie as opposed to the rest of it, but I guess you could argue with her hallucinations, but that's not where this is coming from. Mental illness. So those are the two that I can think of over the frustrations I found within the movie.
I think
This-
those are legit. I mean, this is a Stephen King movie, but it's from a book from the 90s, I believe, right?
Because he wrote, I think he wrote this one and Dolores Claiborne, which is like a companion novel around the same time. I'm reading Dolores Claiborne right now with my wife.
Oh.
We're chucking the same book like back and forth at each other.
Oh, nice.
So I have not read Gerald's Game, but from what I've seen, this is, and almost in some points to its detriment, very loyal to the book.
I
Yeah.
read that it was very loyal too.
Like to the point where it hurt the movie at the end, Jen. We could do a whole podcast on the Act 5 of this movie. But
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, so so something else that was on my mind as we're getting through this movie is keeping in mind, because I mean, I knew that it was kind of like a dated book. And in the 90s, something that was like, I think, a little bit more socially accepted than it is now was the idea of just kind of like, just like a white dude telling stories about things that don't really affect white dudes statistically all that much. Like I don't know. Just so this is very much a story about like sex abuse, about like sort of male violence against women's bodies. And so something that was really much like very much on my mind was like the idea of this is like a story that came from Stephen King. So like is this really like a valid story for him to be telling? Like or or does he do it justice? I don't know. Like I definitely hear, Jen, your critique of the kink shaming and all of that stuff. I also thought that I was detecting like a lot of especially with the final act that we were alluding to with this guy who turns out to be like just this like serial killer. Like there's definitely something kind of like ableist about it too. And I don't know. Geoff, am I wrong? Am I off base? What do you think?
I mean, as a heterosexual white male, it, I enjoyed this movie very much. Like it was my recommendation for the show tonight. I think as far as the kink shamey stuff, I did not get a kink shame feeling from this. I got this is exactly how you don't do BDSM, and this is exactly why thing. And I think that's valid. I saw this and I was like, oh wow, like we have no discussion of limits, no discussion of safe words, no discussion of parameters of the game, no discussion of role play. Like, and look what happened. Like, nothing. We're using real handcuffs for crying out loud. Like, there's a lot of big kink red flags right at the beginning, and I think that is not meant to be shamey. I never got isn't this gross and weird and bad, and these people deserve exactly what they got. I didn't get that at all. I got this guy's an asshole. That's the whole point. Men are rapey assholes, and it's bad. Like I got a lot of like themes of misogyny and rape culture. There's a whole life support joke that I would love to talk about that I think is very central to a bunch of things, but I never felt like, oh, this is really like anti-kink or anti-what. Like it just felt like this is a guy who has dominated his whole life, and he's dominated his wife, and he's dominated the courtroom, and he's just doing another dominating thing because he's always gotten away with it, and it's always gone his way, and it's always, oh, you're dead.
Yeah.
But the only representation of BDSM is through him. And I don't think there should be anything wrong with, if done correctly with safe words and boundaries, like you said, a rape fantasy, which I'm going to get canceled for that. I know that. I got canceled in the last episode.
No, if there's full consent, I mean, yeah.
The first C in C, consensual non-consent, is the one that gets the capital. Like and it was not.
It was not there. Yeah.
It was not there. And
they clearly don't communicate in the movie. Like they're in a toxic relationship even before. Like she never told him she was raped by her dad, which feels a little like cliche or just a little simplistic, in my opinion, plot-wise.
Wait, can you say what's cliche about that? What do you mean?
It just feels like, I don't know, like it was like, she's with her husband and it's like, oh, it's kind of like he's raping me. Oh, but my dad raped me when I was younger. I feel like there's all these like narratives of like trauma with women, but written by like straight white men of like, and then they were raped when they were younger, there are many great stories about that too. But at the same time, it just felt like, is Stephen King the person to write this? Like the whole idea at the end with the eclipse and the sun, like, oh, we need the sun to come out. It just feels like, it feels very trite to me, the writing.
To speak to your like trite, the idea that this all felt very trite, like my.
I just meant that one line.
Oh, got you.
I was just
then yes.
Specific.
Then yes, I agree. But also, I think that there was like maybe a minute and a half, like series of shots, really close to that, where they really just like hit you over the head with like the connections between like the father and the husband and the serial killer that were just that was the most loathsome section for me, where it was just like
the face swapping montage
with the
there was
serial killer guy at the end.
Yeah.
that was not the moment. It was like the
Okay.
moment where he was like, you know, my dad put me in these handcuffs, and then I chose these other handcuffs in the form of a wedding ring, and like we see the guy put in the
Oh,
wedding
and
ring.
she's like, the
montage.
wedding ring was like,
It was like comfort, but it was also a handcuff, and
Yeah,
it was like
his what was his cuffs were control or something, and you traded those for comfort or something like
yeah,
that.
that's it. That's the line. That's the exact. That's the line I
the
couldn't say.
wedding ring is not necessarily comfort, and clearly not with your husband.
Not for
Like,
her. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Anyway,
I liked it. I don't like
that's the episode. We're done here. Peace out.
Nice transition.
guys, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I am a big King fan, and I get torn up about like whose stories are whose to write, because I feel like, you know, writers like King, like they've written so many books, and there's only so many like once you start looking at like, well, you know, should his characters be black? Should his characters have a past of sexual trauma? And if like he has not experienced these things, then do his stories that go into this invalidate them? And then if so, like where are, like, you narrow down the border to experience versus what can you write about? And I don't know, as a enjoyer of fiction, I don't know where that boundary for me lies.
Yeah.
This movie did not ring any bells for me. I watched it once by myself. Then we when I say we, I just mean my wife and I.
Not the royal we?
Not the royal we by any stretch of anybody's imagination. But then like we started getting into the Flaniverse thing, and I was like, hey, if you got an evening, check out Gerald's Game. It's the first thing of his that I saw. And so she watched it, she loved it, and then we watched it together. And her experience, and when we were watching it together, it was like, this was a ton of fun. Let's read Dolores Claiborne, which is a novel, and again, companion novel. So it covers similar themes from a different narrative.
I did hear about that. What is it called again? I'm going to get
Dolores Claiborne.
Dolores Claiborne.
And I'm enjoying that. And the entire thing, it is a novel that's hundreds of pages, and it is a chapterless monologue, first person spoken monologue by a woman.
Wow.
And like, I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
How many pages are we talking here?
God, it's in my backpack, but it's probably 400, 450, something up there. I mean, it's a big, like when you picture a chunky Stephen King novel with that big red text from the 80s on the book, on the used bookshelf, like it's big. It's not big, but it's big enough. And I mean, no chapters, no page breaks. It just goes. So it's interesting. Is that a valid story for him to write? I haven't finished the book yet, but like, if it's not, then okay, he's only gonna write stories about straight white men in Maine. Like, I don't know where those lines. I don't know where those. There's only so many recovering cocaine addict stories that I could read from one author.
Right.
No, I do agree with you, because it's hard to, what is that line? I just think sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes King, I think it works and sometimes it doesn't work. Like he wrote about Carrie. I think Carrie's great. The book is really similar to the movie. It actually works well for a movie and a book. Misery is awesome. There's a pretty cool female villain in that. So, you know, I think sometimes I don't like it. I'm in a minority there in the world. And that's a moment where I don't think it works. But like, I feel like sometimes he's on point, sometimes he's not. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the gender or race of the characters. It just has to do with him and his writing. But that's just me. I'm not a huge King fan. I like a lot of it. Seen more of the movies than read the books, probably.
It's
But
really hard for me to not send us down an it rabbit hole right now. But the thing that I wanted to say is that I feel like Stephen King might also represent like a bit of an anomaly in a lot of what would be those rules, because of just how like relentlessly prolific he is. And over decades and decades, as a creative person myself, if I just felt this like incredible drive to make stuff,
Yeah.
you don't want to make the same thing over and over again. The other thing I will say in his defense, is that I do know that at times he has been like sort of a carefully researched author. Often, like talking to people with these experiences to try to relay those experiences. Like whether that qualifies the nature of what he's doing, I don't know. I kind of feel like I can't really say. But to me, it does feel better to feel like he's like consulting people,
like he's out doing the research for it.
Yeah. Like he's like not trying to pretend like he knows what it is. He's like trying to see other people, and
I think that does kind of change it. Also, you said he's very prolific. He has so many fucking books. I
like
think that
so
when
many
you're-
books.
Yes, and like as an artist, like I feel like if I put everything out there in the world, not all of it's going to be good. I feel like he has a lot. So like because
And not all of Stephen King's work is good. Let me tell you, Jen.
I think that's why I love reading him so much. I mean, you can take reading in quotes. I listen to audiobooks, like sue me. But
That's it, man. You're done.
I'm done.
This is over.
I'm just a poser. Funny enough, Harry and I were English majors in Ithaca together. I never read a single thing. I'm totally illiterate. And I've just listened to every single thing that Jim Swafford ever assigned me.
No,
So,
did you? You really did? You really never read a book, or did you? Are you fucking around?
Yeah, dude. No, I read probably a solid 30% of the pages that I was assigned in my education.
Oh my God.
But
Nice.
no, back to the important stuff, which is Stephen King. And why I love him. There's a part of my gambler addiction itch that I love because there are so many hits and so many misses. Like I will go into a King book and I'm like, I genuinely have no idea if I'm going to enjoy the ending of this book or not. Like I read like It, loved the ending of It. You're
the only person in the world who feels that way, but continue.
I'm sorry. Like it was like they tidied up some things in the new movie and they made some things different, but it was like a 1,200-page book is like, this is not going to end like perfectly satisfactorily. It was the end of what it was. But then like I read Under the Dome. What a dog shit last 2 chapters. Oh my God. It was awful. It was like the tritest, weirdest, like, oh, fuck, the publisher's calling. Like, it sucked. And so every time I hit play on a new King audiobook, I'm like, rolling the bones. And
Here we go.
I love it.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So
That's great.
That's maybe why, like, I genuinely, and, again, straight white male confession here, I genuinely loved the first 4 acts of this film. I was truly riveted, and there was some hokey moments and there was some lines that were a little silly, and I was like, you know what, I can forgive that because it's a film, it's art, it's whatever. Act 5 hit, oh my God, you took a riveting, humorless, real good thriller and you turned it into a straight to TV Hallmark holiday special in no time. It was astonishing.
It's
Quick
like a
question.
5-minute section of the movie.
It
Wait,
was-
So it's actually the last 15 minutes.
Oh, it's brutal, and it
Is it
chugs
when she
on.
starts writing the letter to herself?
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
God, the letter.
Oh
What
my
Why?
God.
doing with this letter? And I started a charity, and it's really good. And and I like,
And I
oh no.
I tell this
Mhm.
story every day as she goes into this courtroom.
Yes.
She
The
goes into
fact
this
that she
courtroom.
isn't tased to a pile of
That's what I'm
dust.
saying.
That is like walking into Rudy Giuliani's court. Like, it's like the biggest, most high profile
press-
court case. And you're like, I'm gonna walk up to the perp and not get absolutely just, oh my
Right.
God. Like, there were so many ways to redo that ending. There's so
Sure.
many ways you
Even if-
could have put her in the gallery and like maybe he turns around and like picks her out of the crowd. You could have done that. You could have put her on the sidewalk, and when he's out, you could have done any number of things.
Yeah.
She walks through the
down
press.
the aisle.
And no security.
Down the aisle.
None.
Yeah.
I would. Wow. Talk about
And
what
then-
do they
and then
call
what-
it? Destruction of your suspension of disbelief. Just
Yeah.
shattered.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then all that. Wait, hang on, Geoff. And then all of that for such a nothing burger of a moment. Like, just like, he like turns around, he says the thing that she said to him, and then she says, I thought you were bigger. And then she just like walks out like a fucking badass and puts glasses on and like saunters down the street.
And this
And
was
like,
the moment that made me very much dislike the movie. I mentioned earlier the mental illness thing. So at the end, we've got the serial killer character who has, I'm not going to say this right,
right, he's got some some
Acromegalia?
Yeah, I think that's
pituitary
it.
problem.
Yeah, but this disease is purely physical. It happens to people later in life, usually between 30s and 50s. I looked this up. Google defines it as a hormonal disorder that develops when your pituitary gland produces too much growth hormone during adulthood. Nowhere, and I looked this up, does it imply mental illness. But when he talks, he sounds like a child, almost implying that he has some kind of mental disease. And the fact that he's a serial killer there, I don't see any point of him being in the movie. And I assume he's in the book. And if he is, this is why I wrote down that Stephen King this, but I think it basically, Stephen King wants to make a monster out of a terrible disease. Like a really, really, I don't see anything horrifying in it. I see it as, like, I don't get offended easily at all. Like, at all. Like, I'm the person who said women can't hold chainsaws in the other thing and almost got canceled.
Yeah, that was the last episode.
They can, just to be clear. Just to be clear, they can.
It's just the director thinks they can't, but continue.
Yeah. But I really was like kind of mad about it. Like I found it very upsetting that it was just, let's use this deformity and he's a monster now.
I guess that's something that really offended me too, Jen. And I was trying to put my finger on it as far as like when I was referring to like something kind of ableist in the movie, and it really feels it feels out of the 1950s. It feels really regressive.
Like Elephant Man.
Yeah, but even Elephant Man
But
has
even that's like not that.
Mm-hmm.
It feels really regressive, and I think it almost kind of it counteracts a lot of the thematic material that I think that the movie is setting up. I think that the movie sets up a lot of the characters as representations of masculine violence against women. You've got obviously the husband, you've got the dad, you've got the dog, you've got the but then you've got the Moonlight Man, and I liked it better before Act 5, imagining that it was just a figment of her imagination. Like if it had stayed that way, I would have been good with it. Like it would have made sense to me. It's like the most sort of meta version of that idea, right? It's very hulking, it's huge, it's imposing, it appears at night when you're most vulnerable and you're not even functional. but the fact that it turned out to be like an actual person with a real disability, it really sits kind of sour for me. I don't know.
It's bad. I
Mm.
I I saw them as like the monster creation was, I want to say, like it was coincidental. Like the mental illness is not connected to the physical illness. There was so much narrative letter writing exposition in that last bit. Like it would have been nice to have a little line that just says like mental illness isn't connected to this disease, but this guy happened to have a twofer. Like, one line in 15 minutes wouldn't have hurt.
Right, yeah.
So much of that shit
They were
anyway.
already doing so much shit.
Like the gratuitous let me break the fourth wall at the end of the movie, the ship had sailed. Like you could sneak something in like that. I never got the sense of like we're trying to paint acromegaly or as it used to be called, I think, elephantitis, like this is a bad mentally debilitating thing as well. I think it was just like, look at how both of these things coalesced in one individual, and now he's this Ed Gein version in this movie, because he's the actual guy's based on Ed Gein, which
But
is
it felt more like a Rob Zombie character thrown into a serious drama. I don't think that you can have a very minor, minimal character, give him that kind of deformity and say that the public isn't seeing him as a monster unless that's what the movie's about. And that's not what the movie was about. Even when she goes up to him in the court and suddenly sees the stupid face changing
face montage. Oh
her
God.
her husband and then her dad, and I was like, so he's the same as them? Because when he's talking, it seems like he should get off on being mentally ill because he's talking kind of like a child. So I don't think that those people are comparable because they knew what they were doing.
Right.
There's an interesting so if you see any more of Flanagan's work, he loves to recast the same people.
Oh, I've seen all of them.
Tons. Okay, good. So
Including
you've seen
Fall of the House of Usher.
Okay. Oh, so you did see. Okay, great. Did you see Dr. Sleep?
I did. I love Mike Flanagan. My two least favorite movies by Mike Flanagan. I even love like the early ones. Like Oculus is fantastic.
I haven't seen that one. I have not seen.
So good. I do not like Dr. Sleep and this one. I want them to be his weakness.
I'm like here or there about Dr. Sleep. I was looking for something and I don't know, but it wasn't there. But that's not my point. My point is in Dr. Sleep, there's a character who plays like Grandpa so and so or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's the same actor as the Moonlight Man. And he's already tall, hulking, his eyes are very sunken. He's just an extremely interesting looking guy. You could have just had him. It didn't have to have anything to do with acromegaly. He's just a good cast. Like you could have just cast him and like
that's true, but
then stop.
Yeah, they had to be like, but it's this. Like they had to like say what the disease was.
Yeah, we watched again the royal we, Kelsey and I watched Gerald's Game and then Dr. Sleep in the same night because we were like, I don't know, it's early, like let's do another one. And that's it. So we back to his absolute C-string line in a single night. Him, Flanagan. And kind of King, actually, weirdly enough.
Well, listen, I was gonna say, I feel like I know the through line here.
Yeah. But like we saw this actor in Dr. Sleep, and I'm gonna eat my shorts if it's not the same actor. Like I'm so sorry.
I'm sure it is. No, I'm sure
if I've got this much conviction and I'm wrong. So apologies. But it was like, wait a minute. why did we need so much makeup budget?
Mm.
Like, that wasn't the hand scene enough for a makeup budget? Like, that we didn't need more in
Damn.
Gerald's Game?
All right, hang on. Let's wait a minute.
Has
Everybody
anyone
relax.
read Gerald's Game, by the way? Has
I
anyone
haven't-
even read it?
I have not
Okay,
read
no.
the book.
So, I was
Okay,
told
just
this was
kidding.
a movie podcast.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I
no.
don't think we've talked about the movie yet. I think we've only talked about the book that no one's read.
Well, we did read that it was very close to the book.
There you go. Yes.
But already I'm seeing in Doctor Sleep, Bruce Greenwood is also in Doctor Sleep. Let's see here. And you're right. Carl Stroiken?
Oh, thank goodness. God, I would have felt like such an asshole.
Nah.
I'm like, this other tall guy with a big forehead is definitely the same actor. I've never seen a tall person like that before in my life.
That is him.
Okay, phew.
In a bunch of makeup.
He doesn't even need makeup.
That's what we
Yeah.
said. We were like,
I agree with you. Yeah.
For it to like work with the metaphor with the movie, he didn't need to have. Well, and I guess that's kind of the thesis of this whole segment is just that like he didn't need the disability to like work with the narrative of the movie. It didn't make sense, right?
I was wondering if he had the disease in the book, and then Mike Flanagan just took exactly what was in the book.
That's gotta be it. I feel like if you add a disease into a movie that wasn't in the source material, that is inexcusable. That is not something I feel like a director or writer of this caliber would do. That just feels so weird.
Mike Flanagan's The Shining is going to be about alcoholism and shingles.
Shingles and a boiler.
Ooh, yeah.
Rewatching Doctor Sleep, because I read The Shining, I watched The Shining, I read Doctor Sleep, I watched Doctor Sleep, and when Ewan McGregor, Danny Torrance, runs downstairs to the boiler, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot that was such a thing in the Shining book, because it's like utterly erased in the
movie.
Film,
yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not a thing in the movie. Yeah.
It's not a thing. And that was like a constant haunting Jack Torrance demon. But anyways.
Well, and such a representation of his. All right, here we go.
No, wait, this is not a Shining podcast. I still want to talk about Gerald's Game.
God damn it.
Gerald's.
I wrote notes. I watched this movie twice and I wrote notes. My Kindle is almost dead and my Edible is almost kicking in. Can we please, for the love of God, talk about the movie that we watched? I do want to get more into like movie stuff, like a movie thing or two.
Oh.
After a second watch of this, there were bits and pieces of moviedom that I appreciated. And like little images and things, like for instance, there's a bit where right at the beginning, like the items are being laid out. And Harry, I don't know how many times you watched this one.
Only once.
Just one. So seeing it a second time, she lays out her nightgown and it's in exact position to her pillows as like where she's going to be trapped. And then the cuffs are put into the bag and it's all part of the same montage. And it's all during a song that she was initially assaulted at by her father that was on the radio during the eclipse. And that song continues the montage, and then it gets into the car, and she's like, stop calling yourself daddy. Later in the film, the sundress, which is a symbol we haven't talked about, but the sundress is taken off and laid out in the exact same place on her bed as the nightie. So little stuff, like there's just little details like that. I enjoyed the little nods that allows a smooth-brained audience like myself to look at and be like, aha!
Yeah.
Like, that's a thing. That's a symbol. That's meaningful. Like, that is just, it's just a little bit of a visual through line.
I like the same thing too. There was a lot to do with like circles, right? The handcuffs, the wedding rings, the solar eclipse, the lot of circular imagery to represent, like captivity. But for me, it's like, I'm like, okay, but does all that lead us to something more profound? Does it convey like a deep thematic message? Like, I don't know. It's nuanced, it's cool, but like, does it contribute to much?
I get it. I see what you mean with the circle motif. I did not get that as a salient point that a director was making. Or if it was one that didn't need to have a meaning or that even did. So I guess the answer to your question is no.
But the circle motif actually extends to the poster, to the movie poster on Netflix.
Oh,
Which is a silhouette, and then there's a circle behind it. So it must have, I mean, I know it's meant to be the eclipse, why doesn't she go blind when she looks at the eclipse?
because
Like,
she's
why?
looking at it through the thing. He
But not the
gives
whole
her the
time.
yeah. He makes her no. She like looks up
She
from
pulls
it.
it, she looks down, she pulls it away from her eyes at one point.
Is she
Oh.
still looking up?
I believe so.
Ooh, then that's a directorial mistake.
But I
That's
would
a-
have to watch it again. I'm pretty sure
that's
because
a
it was
boo-boo.
annoying me. Like,
It's annoying me now.
Perhaps a medical myth. I mean, you can look at the sun, for glimpses and things without going completely blind.
Why
But-
is the eclipse thing a blind? Like, I never figured that out.
Googled it too, and it said you'd go blind, but no
why?
answers were given
Is
to
it
me.
is it because you only get a little bit more light at a time as the eclipse retracts, and so your eyes kind of like quote unquote get used to it, but your retinas still get cooked?
Are you saying why does looking at the eclipse directly blind you? Is that your
Yes.
question?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. Sorry, so let's get our ratings. Jen, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think everyone's expecting my rating to be low, so I wavered back and forth, honestly. I wavered back and forth between a 2 and a 3.
Is that an
God
all-time Jen and Harry
damn.
low?
That's
It is
the
my
lowest you've
lowest.
ever given.
But I'm gonna go with
Wow.
a 3 because I liked some of the earlier parts of it. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3. It's lower than Cocaine Bear. But to be fair, I should have given Cocaine Bear a slightly lower score. But
Oh,
you
so
know,
it's not quite the worst.
That's low AF. So Jen, if you could
Yeah.
just, I mean, I know that we've kind of like talked about this for the whole podcast, but could you just kind of encapsulate in a sentence or two why that lower rating?
mm. An ending can either make or break a movie for me. So the first part of a movie can be like the best thing I've ever seen in my life, but then if the ending is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, I don't want to watch it again because I don't want to put myself through an hour and a half of that. So in this case, the last 15 minutes, I've seen the movie twice, ruined it for me both times. I saw it like a couple years ago, and then I watched it today, and
What a trooper.
more than 2 sentences. I was like, oh, the ending. That's why I didn't like this movie. So,
Oh,
yeah.
this
But the whole
part.
time I was like, this is great. What's happening? And I was like, no, this is terrible. So yeah, that's mine.
All right, I'll go next. I'm gonna give it like a 5. It's just for most of it, I could get down with most of it. Of course, that final act was absolutely dreadful. That there was a lot of deduction for that. But really, I was just mostly kind of bored, to be perfectly honest with you. I felt like maybe, and this is because just like the kinds of movies that I watch, I feel like I had seen a lot of the because like so much of this movie is about like the quote unquote here, the clever shots that set up the means by which she slowly escapes her confinement. But I've seen so much of that shit. And so like when I see, for instance, the husband get on top of her and we have a close-up shot of him placing that water cup on that high shelf. I'm like, okay, well, that's significant. You know what I mean? And we hear her talking about, how she just bought this slip and she takes off the tag. I'm like, okay, well, this is significant. And so, like, I feel like a lot of what was supposed to feel clever about this movie for me, actually just felt kind of trite, and like I'd seen it before. Things I liked about it, I liked the Moonlight Man before we knew what the Moonlight Man actually was. I like the dog as a metaphor for masculine violence on women. I think that that's really powerful. I think it's really nuanced in the fact that she kind of like she tries to be nice to it, and she tries to like feed it and nurture it, and it like fully takes advantage of that and becomes this very ominous presence just like lurking at her feet. Like I like those things a lot. But yeah, and of course, I mean, I can't not like the scene where she cuts herself to get out of the handcuff, which was just like I was like shouting to myself. There was nobody else. Like,
I skipped that part for the second watch. I was like, I know what happens. I know what it looks like. And you know what? Props to the makeup department for doing that.
That's right. No,
good
it
job.
looked good. It looked good. And
moving through.
And I've seen a lot of gore, and I don't always have that visceral reaction. So like that was good. But yeah, just like a overall
5. So I approach movies differently than you guys when I'm like trying to rate something. So full up, I'm going to give this movie, if 10 is like, you have to watch this or you don't actually know what pop culture is going to be for the next 10 years. And 1 is like, this isn't even a movie. I would put this somewhere around like a 7. I really did enjoy this movie, and I enjoyed it for things we haven't touched on, except Harry, you touched on it a little bit with like the cup of water, the tag, but in the opposite direction.
You like those things?
I like those things. I'm not terribly bright.
Oh my God.
Boy, I'll say.
No, I don't like when hints are too subtle. And then a director comes around and is like, haha, that thing that we very much camouflaged and you missed, you idiot audience. It's important. No, I want the cogs of the machine to be visible from a cinematic point of view. I want to go back as I'm watching something and be like, oh my God, yes, the glass. So like hearkening back to my theater days and like taking direction class, like you want those things to be visible so that the audience feels like they're in on it. You don't want to, again, this is me as a very, very Neanderthal smooth brain cinema goer. I don't want those things to be camouflaged because I don't want to be Sherlock Holmesing my way through these movies. I want to be in on it from the beginning because I want to be like, oh my God, the glass of water 2 seconds before she goes, the glass of water. I want to be 2 steps ahead, and I want to be led to those 2 steps ahead so that I feel like I am a participant in the story instead of being dragged along by the nose.
Okay.
And so I don't mind when it's obvious because it makes me feel like, oh, I have been getting everything, so I am on board. BOARD, not BORED, like Harry was.
Right.
Or Jen. So I like that. Also, as an actor, I'm looking at this from a performance perspective, and I love Carla Gugino.
Agree, 100%.
I think that is the reason why I like this movie. I think she's awesome. And I don't know why she's not a household name. I don't know why she is not A-list. I don't know why she is not No, I do know why. It's because she's in every goddamn Flanagan project, one banger after another, and she can't do anything else because she's working with him all the time. But I love this film as a showcase of her, how she can be multiple facets, multiple diverse facets of a single character in literally the same frame. And I truly enjoyed her performance. I truly enjoyed Bruce Greenwood's performance. I think he's great. I think they probably could have filled his abs in a little bit with some of that Moon Man makeup, because no one at his age with a six-pack like that is dying of anything that has to do with your heart.
No.
That's
Holy
so true.
shit.
Oh man, but
that's more miscast to me than, like, that took it out more for me than the Moon Man. Like, the Moon Man, I was like, what a dumb horror trope at the end of the movie who is supposed to be scary for people who don't watch horror movies. The moment he took off his shirt,
I will say, yes.
I was like, there is no way in hell this man is not climbing Mount Everest next year.
I said the same thing. Listen, man, it took me out of the movie for a second.
So
how fucking
hot.
cut that dude is.
So
Like,
hot.
it's
Oh
unbelievable.
my God, I can't stand it. My mic is like redding out right now, so I am peaking. Bruce Greenwood, I'm fucking peaking.
You're
over
peaking,
you.
know,
So hot.
in terms of audio and sexually. Like,
Yeah.
it's just...
For the viewers at home, we're just in Zoom windows, and I am definitely fully clothed from up as far as Harry and Jen.
So, on that note, should we? There's not that many people in this movie, but should we do hottest?
We should do the hottest, and I'm gonna say
Yeah.
Bruce Greenwood. I mean, that's
Hot,
there's no reason that a man his age should. So I've heard of this.
So hot.
Forgive me for this crassness, but there's a muscle that not many people have, but it's like that. It's an abdominal muscle.
Are you going to say cum gutters on your own podcast? All right.
That's
Say
right.
cum gutters,
I've
Harry, on
never
your
heard
podcast.
cum
God damn it!
gutters.
You've never
You
heard
stole
of
my
cum
thunder.
gutters?
You stole
I
my
love it,
thunder.
though.
Yeah, that's
You
the
asked me on
muscle.
the show to be a guest. I'm sorry. If you and Jen want to talk about cum gutters by yourself, then you can sign me off. You're the admin of this Zoom call, dude. If you want to talk about cum gutters with Jen on your cum gutters podcast, then you can just turn me off, mute me. I don't give a shit.
But what's your opinion on cum gutters?
Fuck yes, cum gutters. Cum gutters, the movie gets a full 10 because all 1 through 5 acts phenomenal. There's no low point in that film. It never gets boring. And let me tell you, I was on board from start to finish. Holy shit, we have kicked in, boys and girls. This is the Geoff that you got on this podcast. This is who you asked to be on here.
This is great.
Oh my God, I'm crying.
Great.
Okay, but
Wait, okay,
sorry,
but do you
sorry,
also think
taking
he's
it
the
back.
hottest?
Do
Are
I
you guys
think
both going with
do I
him?
think cum gutters Greenwood is the hottest? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. He's so hot.
I'm going Carla Gugino. Is that her name?
Carly Gugino, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
She's beautiful. She's beautiful.
I don't want a six pack.
But those cum gutters.
oh my God.
That's
Dude,
the name of this episode.
I
cum gutters.
I saw Usher first, and like, she is bafflingly hot. Episode after episode, persona after persona. Like that scene in episode 1 right before they liquefy the orgy. Oh my God. Like, she's so hot. Harry's like looking around like, they do what? You got it. It's not a spoiler. It's in episode
Sorry,
1.
Say what? No, I need to check it out. I need to check it out.
But I just think for empirical hotness,
Yeah.
like, wow, what a silver fox. I'm sorry.
It's weird, man. It feels, you know what it is? It's because it feels supernatural. It's the fact that he's his age and so fucking cut. It feels super, it feels weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's weird enough that it actually took me out of the movie the second time I watched it.
Me too.
Because I turned to my wife
Was
and
it
it's like,
only
there's
because of the heart attack, or just distracted by
The-
his
no,
ad?
no, it was because I knew he was supposed to die to a health-related issue, and I was like, there is no conceivable way that someone looks like this and their 1800 medical doctor, team hasn't picked up something yet.
Yeah,
Like, hasn't
absolutely.
seen red flags.
Absolutely. No, that's totally fair. So that's the hottest. Do we have some what the fuck moments?
Yeah, I think my what the fuck was actually talked about already. where her hand comes off like a
Oh
fucking
yeah,
glove.
like a glove. Yeah, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I
that
was
has a
like,
Yeah,
medical
for
that
sure.
has a medical name.
What is it?
what
It's
is it?
no, I this is sorry, not joking around anymore.
Okay.
This is called degloving. It is
No
a
way.
yes, it is a thing that a lot of EMTs prepare for because it happens more often than you may want it to happen in things like auto accidents,
Oh my
because you are going from an arm, which is very tubular and straight, to a wrist, which is very obstructive, and the thing that's going to give way first in a wrist is skin.
Damn.
I mean, this is a horror podcast, right? There's a little
It
bit of horror for you.
And we
sure
learned
is.
something.
Go to bed with
Whoa.
that, kids. If you're getting yanked out of your car window at 70 miles an hour, that's what's going to go first.
There's gonna be a degloving. Yeah.
There's
Wow.
probably going to, if your arm gets caught on anything, that's what you're going to, yeah.
So is that the only what the fuck moment in this whole movie, you think? Or
No,
is
I
there
have
more?
one other one.
All right, go ahead.
I have a fear of like, I don't get scared of a lot of things in horror movies, but I have fear of animals like killing people. And when
Mm.
the dog bites her on the leg, I literally was like, oh fuck. I was like, that bitch should be more afraid of dogs than she is. She is not afraid enough of that dog.
Mm,
But that was the other what the fuck moment for
I know.
me.
She's feeding it Kobe steak at the beginning of the movie. $600 a portion or whatever.
And that dog was like, no, I want to eat human.
Have you tried?
Kobe?
Me? Have I tried
Or
human?
human?
It's really hard to come by. You know, it's very expensive.
Yeah. But you guys live in Ithaca. There's, God, the farmers markets there are,
That's true, yeah. There's got to be something.
Wait, are you guys talking about eating human
Yeah.
or Kobe beef?
how
Okay, I
many,
just
how
wanna be
many
clear.
people are out there like, oh my God, like cremation is so unsustainable. When I die, I want to go to Whole Foods or Wegmans or like, come on.
Harry, what's your what the fuck?
I mean, my what the fuck moment, of course, was what I've now learned is called a degloving. I don't know, just to take a sort of an alternative take on it. I mean, waltzing right into a courtroom, down the center aisle, this like big, publicized trial, just to say kind of nothing. Like that felt very kind of what the fuck to me too. Like really, it did take me out of the film in a bad way. So I guess that's probably it.
That leaves me. I'm right there with Harry, the walking into the courtroom.
Mhm.
I was waiting for a U-turn at the letter writing at the beginning. I'm like, this can only go on for so long, and then it'll stop, and then it'll resolve like fine. And then it doesn't. And I'm like, all right, we're waiting. And then as soon as she crosses that barrier, and again, doesn't get tased to a pile of dust, I was like, God damn it, the ending is bad. Like it's one of those King stories
It's a King
where
ending, man.
the ending is bad.
Mhm.
And I was like, but that's why we play this game. Like that's why we pull the arm on the slot machine.
That's right. Can I play a game called What Do You Think the Movie Says On?
Can we call the game Harry's Game?
Yes.
Yes.
Because whatever you just said that I already forgot, I didn't
forgot
like.
too.
I thought that was a bad idea. And
You're right.
It's called Harry's Game, and you're gonna have to re-explain what the premise is because I already forgot what your title
No,
was,
the
which
idea is
already
I'm
explained the game.
I'm just gonna throw out a topic or idea, and I want y'all to chime in on what do you think the movie says on that. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So we're just
is this called Name That Director's Intent?
yeah, kind of. But I
Okay.
thought we just called it Harry's Game, so we're gonna call it.
It is called Harry. Sorry, it's called Harry's Game, and the subtitle is Name That Director's Intent.
Yeah.
I love it.
So are you ready? Here we go.
Mhm.
First one: marriage and communication.
Sorry, we don't have buzzers.
Yeah, Jeff, you
Hold on, wait. Zoom has a hand.
I
Zoom
can
has
see
a
I've
little
done
hand.
this wrong.
Hang on.
I can see I've done this wrong.
Ready. I did it.
Oh my God.
Oh, you have
yes.
a buzzer. Go ahead. Good.
All right. Marriage and communication. Communication is extremely necessary for a working relationship, especially a marriage, especially a sexual marriage. And if oh my God, Zoom says, looks like you're done talking, so we'll lower your hand.
Far from it, Zoom.
Thanks, Zoom. We're just getting warmed up. Communication is extremely necessary in a relationship, especially if that relationship has something to do with counter alternative sex, and that if you don't communicate, you'll die on top of your wife and leave her to her own devices to discover herself.
Love it. Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. Yeah, I think communication is not a thing that happens in this movie. And if you watch this movie, you should be like, well, fuck, I should just go to my partner right now and tell them all my trauma in one go. Just a trauma dump. Yeah, so I think that, like, because I feel like if she had also been able, or maybe felt comfortable enough, because clearly he didn't create that space for her to, like, talk about being molested, sex might be still complicated, but a little bit less traumatic. They both need to talk to each other. Yeah, and not only will your partner die of a heart attack on you, but you'll be degloved.
Yep. Oh, that's inevitable. Degloving is an inevitable conclusion to miscommunication. Yep.
In marriage.
That's why none of our boomer parents have skin on their hands.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed
I
that
was
about your
always
folks?
wondering that. Why?
That's the weirdest thing about people above
Isn't that
55.
weird?
Yeah.
That fucks me up every time I go home to see my folks.
It's always one hand too, and they wear a glove. I'm so confused. I don't get it.
It's this, yeah. Anyways,
All right.
is there another question?
Oh,
in the
I've
game?
got
In
another one
Harry's
for
game?
you. Sex in older age.
Love that we are seeing that in this movie. I love that they are older. They're hot. They are like, I wish that we saw her wanting to have sex as much as he seems to. However, the only moment we get is when she says to him, you know, you haven't touched me in months. So clearly she wants it, but I just wish we had a little more. But I love that it is older people. And like, what are we thinking? Like 40s, 50s? I don't know she looks younger than she is. I don't know.
I got 50s, but that's because I'm now in my mid 30s, and I'm like, yeah, that's definitely 50s, where it's probably 40s.
Right.
I don't know.
He looks facial wise older, ab wise younger.
Well, he's
Fair.
Canadian, so it's just taking him a long time to get old.
Harry, I feel like you need to answer these questions too.
Yeah.
No, I'm enjoying just posing these things.
You are holy shit, Bruce Greenwood is fuck me running 67 years old.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Pushing 70, that guy.
That's crazy.
Damn.
Unbelievable. I think it's a movie of, I mean, I don't know if it says much more than just like, you know, as you get older, and as you know, like maybe something about like long-term committed relationships needing to find ways that ways of engaging in sex that feel new and refreshing. And just again, like coming back to that idea that like it needs to be like a joint venture. It can't be like a single solitary thing pushed on another person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, though, you know, couples that are of that age, you know, and I'm going to stereotype a little bit here, but I think that there's not as much understanding of that need for communication among that age group. You know what I mean? I think that's very much like a thing that's become popular more recently than that, which I think is kind of interesting.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And my last one, erectile dysfunction.
It's a bummer.
It happens.
Yeah.
But he should have told her that he was taking it. Viagra.
It should have been a joint. It should there's the dialogue where he says, I never told you about those little blue pills. And she's like, yeah, until I discovered that you were taking them. And then he's like, yeah. And then at that point, I figured you already knew. So I never even mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
Are we to infer that the Viagra is what killed him?
No, I don't think so. This felt, again, it could be the six-pack talking. Bruce Greenwood's not the one I had before this podcast, but it could be that I think this was supposed to be like a sudden aneurysm thing. That this was some kind of fluky thing because he had taken them prior to.
But he took him again.
Yeah, that's why I thought
He
it
took
was
him
2.
2 times.
Mhm. And they
I
put this
only
on the
take
bottom.
2 at once.
No, but I thought that we were trying to maybe subtly say that he was abusing the Viagra for some reason, for like some kind of.
That's what I thought too. Even the one
I
that
did.
You thought
Why
that
didn't
too?
I
Okay,
see the
cool.
2 times? I did not see
Not just for
I
me,
did
then.
not see the 2 times. I thought the menacing thing was like the only soundtracking that happens in this entire movie are like little notes of menacement, but that the menacement was supposed to be like the impending sex is going to happen to you sound, and not like oops I took 2 pills.
I don't know. I definitely saw him take like multiple doses of Viagra before trying to have sex with her, and
Okay,
I thought they
very
were
well
trying
could
to
have been getting
suggest that.
popcorn at that moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that's all I had. That's it.
I don't.
This has been Harry's game.
Less violent than Gerald's game.
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure.
I got all the skin left on both my hands.
Yeah.
So
You've not been degloved.
well done, Harry. Does that mean I win Harry's game, or I wasn't committed enough? Did I lose Harry's game?
Does anyone win the game? Oh, I just lost the game.
Oh, you son of a!
Fuck.
You knew it was gonna happen.
God damn it! I can't believe we just got through this whole discussion of Gerald's game and none of us lost the game.
That's kind of remarkable.
That's pretty wild.